What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I am joined once again by Tyler, and we are here today to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. We talked about this a little bit, that we were going to do this in the review. This is going to just be basically a discussion. We're going to discuss the movie. We're going to go over some of the things that we kind of skipped on in the review, where we missed a few elements because we were really excited, and even though the review was really long, we still missed some stuff. We'll talk about some of our favorite scenes. We'll talk about maybe specific characters, and we'll answer and respond to a couple of what you guys have said, your comments. But before we do that, we want to make a quick programming note of what's to come over this next week. We kind of redid what I was talking about in the earlier videos of what we're going to be doing, but that's fine. So in the next upcoming videos, we're going to have two of them. And one of them is going to be talking about Davy Jones, because we know there's been a lot of people that have commented on our channel, and I'm sure people just in general are wondering about Davy Jones, seeing him at the end of 5, or seeing his shadow. And so we're going to have a full-on discussion about that, what that means to Pirate 6, in particular Pirate 6, like what's Davy Jones gonna, what's going on with him for 6. And then the second video, Tyler, we're going to talk about curses and supernatural elements. Now, we actually had a video talking about supernatural elements when we didn't think it was going to, like, we just talked about that because
become a problem?
Yeah, because we just talked about that because it's like, oh, this is cool, Davy Jones is cool. But now we understand.
And somebody asked us, like,
somebody
can
asked
you
us,
see,
yeah, right.
you know, how can you envision like a Pirates of the Caribbean movie without supernatural elements? And the answer is no.
Right. So we did that, but now in this movie, they did some things with curses and with supernatural. So Tyler, you want to give a very brief explanation of what they did that makes this confusing and what we want from the people watching?
There's a lot, like in the comment sections, a lot of you are saying, and I'm not attacking anybody, except for everybody. I'm just kidding. But a lot of you are saying, like, how, you know, Will was cursed, or because in the movie, Will tells Henry right in the beginning, he says, don't you know that
I'm cursed to this ship?
I'm a cursed man, I'm bound to this ship. So people, I think, are taking him saying that I'm a cursed man, like, I know that's what was written, and I know that's what they say, so they say that Will was cursed, so that way at the end, when the trident is destroyed, and it lifts curses, all curses, that's why he basically can come on land, and all the stuff falls off of him, and all that. I call their bluff, the movie's bluff. They're lying. When you look into Davy Jones, because that's who he's taken up the role of Davy Jones. When you look into Davy Jones has never once been cursed. Not by Calypso, not by anybody. His job as the captain of the Flying Dutchman, that is not a curse. That is a duty to the sea, and that is an essential duty to death, basically, bringing those who die at sea to the other side. That is not a curse. And a lot of you are saying, like, you're like almost like implying that it's a curse and all that stuff, but really it's not. Like, when we actually, and I'm not blaming you, because that's what the movie wants us to believe. It's just not true. So Davy Jones was not. He willingly took the job. He willingly accepted that role. He knew the rules. He knew he would only be able to come onto land once every 10 years. He knew that. He knew he would not be allowed to have any loved ones on board. He knew that. He took the job because he was in love with the sea, which was Calypso, so that he'd be able to be on the sea, and then he'd be able to be physically with her once every 10 years. So he willingly accepted all of the consequences, all of it. He willingly accepted it. Now, it's unfortunate that Will, you know, had to take up that role. It wasn't his choice, but that doesn't make him cursed. He's not the new Davy Jones. That isn't a curse. So how, and there's more to it, briefly, and then because we're going to have a whole video on it. So, and the main thing, though, is a lot of you are saying, okay, well, you know, maybe the curse is only that he's bound to the ship, okay? Because that is what Will says in the movie. Okay, but that isn't the case, because the movie proves that's not the case. Because at the end of the movie, what do we see? Not only do we see all the stuff, like Will looks all fresh, he looks all clean, all this stuff is off of him, but we see the Flying Dutchman in the background. Does it look like the Flying Dutchman that we know from 2, 3, and the beginning of 5? No, it doesn't. It doesn't look like that at all. It doesn't even look like how it looked when Will becomes the captain at the end of 3. It looks like a fully restored, brand new ship. So how is that related to Will being bound to the ship? Will and his crew being bound to the ship? It doesn't. So why did it change how the Flying Dutchman appears? How the Flying Dutchman looks? It shouldn't have. So does that mean that the ship was also cursed? Because the ship was the vessel for the job. So I guess what I'm saying is it's very confusing on what is supernatural and what is a curse, because they did not establish the line between a curse and supernatural. Because like Salazar, for example, and then I'm done because we're going to have another video. Salazar, for example, all of his crew, Salazar, everything, his ship, everything destroyed when it entered the Devil's Triangle, right? Then the Devil's Triangle's power goes inside Salazar, and then all of a sudden they're all undead and they're stuck there. Is the Devil's Triangle cursed, or is the Devil's Triangle a supernatural element? So because you got to tell me, you guys have to tell me, because, well, as we saw, the Devil's Triangle, when it's broken, all of a sudden, Salazar's curse, supposed curse, is lifted. And then the other weird thing is the Devil's Triangle, or not when the Trident is destroyed, if they were all dead, then when the Trident was destroyed, why didn't they all die? Right. Why did it restore them fully? That doesn't make sense. So the Trident, and remember, they never say in the movie, the Trident releases all curses. What they say is the Trident holds all the powers of the sea. And Henry says something along the lines of, maybe what does he say? Maybe
all the curses
are trapped
in
inside of it?
Right, yes.
So he says maybe the curses are trapped inside of it. Well, what if they're not? What if you were wrong? What if breaking the Trident actually does something else?
Right.
Because if it holds all the powers of the sea and you broke it, doesn't that mean that more would change rather than just supposed curses? So, and then my last point, and this is just going to be a question, or these next 3 things that I'm going to say are questions. Jack Sparrow was suffering from bad luck. He had bad luck. Is that a curse? Or is that supernatural? Or is that just life? That's my question 1. Question 2, was the Flying Dutchman, is that a cursed ship? Or is that a ghost ship? And number 3, is Salazar cursed, being undead? Or is he undead? And is undead, like a zombie or whatever, is undead considered a curse, or is undead considered a supernatural element? And I want you guys to leave your thoughts to those, so answer those 3 questions. I also want you guys to tell us, because we here actually really want to know what all of you really think. What is a curse in the Pirates of the Caribbean universe? What is considered a curse? What is considered supernatural elements? And so I want you could do research, you could do, just your thought based on what we've seen in all of the movies. It doesn't matter. Just make sure it's like a legitimate thought. You can come up with a fan theory, because those can apply. Those do apply, because sometimes ideas like that, because right now we don't have an answer. We legitimately don't have an answer to that question. So sometimes it takes somebody to come up with a crazy idea that maybe isn't so crazy.
Right.
So I want you guys to answer those 3 questions, and also tell us what a curse is, in your opinion, and what a supernatural element is for the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
Yeah.
Because we actually may have, and I don't want to be dramatic, but depending on, and we're going to have a follow-up video talking about what you guys all say, and we'll discuss that even more in depth, but we may actually have a legitimate problem for the following Pirates of the Caribbean movies if things start to lean towards a certain direction. And we'll talk about that more in another video.
So leave your comments, and we'll have that one, and then we'll have another one after that, and we'll tell you what's right for that one, where we'll talk about Davy Jones more in particular. So write your comments for that. Now, So we're just going to kind of go through a couple of it's not going to be insane. It's not going to be a podcast like the Pirate Special was. But we're just going to go through some things. So Tyler, people asked even when we predicted it, and I thought maybe it'd be a cool way to start this, is people asked to do a history on Barbossa. People wanted to know like our opinions on him. So, we talked about his death in the review. But I feel like we should maybe start this by saying, what did you, and we kind of talked about this off air, what do you think of his character? Where do you think he's come from? Did you like his death? Like everything about, like saying of like what were your favorite scenes with him? Let's do kind of like a memorial service for Barbossa, Hector Barbossa. So what do you think of him?
So like when we look at Barbossa from Pirates 1, we see him, he's kind of like a creepy character, not creepy, but like creepy, scary. And we learned that, he actually has a lot of feelings. He enjoys a lot of aspects of life. He's not like a crazy killer or anything like that. He just, like Pearl, all he wanted was to be able to taste, to drink, to feel the wind in his face, to feel a warm body. So he really enjoys, like, those aspects of life, freedom and all that stuff. So, and obviously he also wants to be, like, his goal is to be a rich pirate. So that's how we meet him, and then he has, in my opinion, the character arc, or the character development arc in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, because as the movies go on, obviously he dies in Pirates 1, at the end of Pirates 1. But then when he comes back, it's weird because now he's with Elizabeth, he's with Will, and all these. It's like a weird relationship because before he was kind of after them, then he's working with them. But he never tries to kill them, he never tries to hurt them. He doesn't hate Jack. So he's not this bad guy. He messes with Jack actually a lot. So I think they really were close friends. He definitely has feelings that I think are more internal, but as the movies go on, they become more external.
Definitely.
In Pirates 4, when Jack has him tell him what happened to the Pearl. Yep. And when, just like Alex always talks about, like when he's describing like what happened, you could see on his face that he's like upset and disappointed. He just feels like lost that he lost the Pearl. Right. And all he wants is to get it back, and he wants revenge. He marries Will and Elizabeth and all that stuff. So he's very much tied to a lot of these characters. So then when we see him in 5, and he's gotten much older. Obviously, he has a pig leg now, so he's not as agile. He can't fight as well. But he makes up for it because now he has a sword of Triton. He has the Queen Anne's Revenge. Now he has a fleet of 10 ships. And now you start to see that he's becoming like what he always planned on. He's fulfilling his goal. He wanted to be a rich pirate. He becomes a rich pirate. He has a fleet of 10. He's got all these gold. I mean, his freaking pig leg has gold. Yeah. He's eating very extravagant, whatever that was, candied apple or whatever that is. Everything, all the sails are turned in gold. So he's living a very luxurious pirate's life. He rules the seas. That's what they say. That Barbossa rules the seas.
He's the pirate who controls it all.
But he's not right. But he's not doing it in like a evil, dark way.
Right.
He just well, here's my 10 ships and my fleet. What are you going to do? You're not going to do anything. He's paying off the Navy. He's got deals with a witch that he's cursing his enemies to make things easier. Yep. So he's kind of like just laying back and enjoying his life. But then when we find out that he has a daughter, which we call here on this channel, when we find out that he has a daughter, and he realizes that Karina, who's on his ship, is his daughter, when we see how he responds to that, he is more than ever, completely crushed. Yeah. Like it was just, that's an unbelievable scene in Pirates 5 where he is so crushed when he learns that the daughter that he really wasn't even sure what happened to her. He always, he hoped that she was alive, but he didn't know if she was or not. Then he just left her behind. He basically abandoned her. Because he called himself a lowlife, like she doesn't deserve a lowlife like me or something like that. So, and to see that, and to then confide in Jack, who's tied up, but like still his friend. He immediately goes to Jack after like thinking about, this is my daughter. Immediately goes to Jack, talks to Jack. So that trust and does actually care about Jack, because he wouldn't tell him something personal like that. I know Jack figured it out, but Barbossa wouldn't have to.
Yeah, Barbossa went into the full thing of explaining it. Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't have to. He could just ignore him. Like, yep. and in movies past, like towards maybe 1 or 3, kind of like how if Jack says something, how he turns his head really quick.
Yeah.
Kind of puts his nose up.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't want to give you the time of day. He's over the movies. He stopped doing that, and he does open up more to Jack. And I enjoy that, and that means that he is a very caring for others character. Like, he does actually care about other people. So then, though, when he and he finds out that Salazar destroyed 3 of his ships that had his treasures in it, and then he wants revenge for losing those treasures that have been taken from him. He wants revenge. Like I said, he learns about his daughter, and then to see, like, he interacts with her and stuff, but to see him sacrifice himself right before, or right after, he sacrifices himself right after she asks him, like, what am I to you?
Yep.
And his response is treasure. I thought that was an amazing, that was the perfect final line for Hector Barbossa. Because his whole life, all he wanted was to be a rich pirate, which he got what he wanted, and he was surrounded by all these treasures, but the thing that he forgot about was his daughter, and when he has her back, he realizes that she was the most important treasure in his life, and like there's nothing that he really can do for her. And she's about to get killed, basically. Like, Salazar would have ripped her right off of the anchor.
Yeah.
So just like how he wanted revenge on Salazar for destroying his ships that contain his treasure, he's about to destroy his one true treasure, and he will not have that. So, and he sacrifices himself to protect his daughter. That you can tell that obviously he didn't have a lot of time to, like, really love her. But he does definitely care a lot for her. Like, you can feel it, rather than just see it. You can feel that he does. And I feel like they couldn't have made his character arc better, because you actually, like I just did, like, when you see how and who he was from the moment that we met him, he is very much a caring character, and it completely makes sense that he would sacrifice himself. He would even say, I think he would honestly say he didn't die in this movie, but he died like in 6, and maybe Jack was in a tight spot. I actually think that he would sacrifice himself for Jack. I really do. I don't know if he'd be as okay with it. Maybe, like, as he falls to his death in this one, he accepts what he did. I don't know how he'd feel about if he had to do it for Jack, but I still think that he would do it for Jack. But in this case, obviously, he doesn't. But the fact that he realizes the true treasure in his life, and the funny thing was that's what he was after all along.
What's cool about especially this movie,
his whole time he was looking for a treasure.
Right, and especially this movie, he literally starts it out with that goal where he mentions the word treasure with the witch, with Shansha in her, like, lair. Right. He mentions the word treasure like a couple times. So, like, I love that line where he says that back to Karina. I think it's easily the best line in this movie, as I said in the review, but after seeing it twice, could be one of the best lines, if not the best line in the whole franchise. Like, that is a very powerful, like, emotional, like, Jeffrey Rush did phenomenal as Barbossa this whole movie, as he always has, but, like, hearing him say about, like, like, when she tells him to retire, and then he says, like, he's stealing my treasure, and I'm not going to have that, like, he's not going to, and Jeffrey Rush has said that in interviews before, where Barbossa feels, like, threatened, like there's this new kid on the block, Salazar, who's threatening his position of power, stealing his treasure, and Barbossa's not going to have it. And then it's just really cool, like you said, like, that he had physical treasure, but he at one point did have a daughter, that he gave up on and just left behind. And then when he gets reunited, he realizes like that's the treasure that he really has wanted this whole time. So that's a very powerful message, and I feel like that alone should give it a higher score from critics that are destroying this movie. So like, which that could be its own thing of that disastrous thing. So you wrote a comment to a person back. Was that what that was, or you want to say it?
Yes, that was. Essentially, that's what I said because
a lot of people are asking,
Finland,
like, wanting him to come back, and Tyler had a good.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying, I hope he comes back in 6. I hope he doesn't, and they won't pull that again. How many times are you going to pull somebody coming back to life? They're not going to do that with him. And again, like, it makes sense that he would die anyways, because he can't fight as well. He's getting older. He gets cut. So it only makes sense that, I mean, I think he would have died eventually anyways. He would have bitten off more than he could chew at some point. But for him to die sacrificing himself to save his daughter, that's like his treasure. That's the best thing that could have happened for that character, in my opinion. But Master Finland wrote, well, I'm disappointed of the movie because Barbossa died. So I basically said, you can't really be disappointed with it, though, and then I explained everything that I said, how it makes sense and all of that. And then I said that it's the arc of Hector Barbossa is really so vivid and clear that I can't be disappointed with it at all. It's the best character arc in the franchise, and his death actually solidifies Barbossa as who he is, someone with deep feelings for life and freedom, but the things that are important to him most outweigh his own personal desires.
Definitely.
He's an amazing character. And obviously, I am definitely going to miss him, but I'm glad that we were able to see his character finished with justice, rather than, maybe they make another movie and they think that they're going to make a 7, but then they end up not making a 7, and then we have almost like an
incomplete kind of thing.
What's it called? Yeah, basically incomplete, like, it's just like a floating plot, like, well, what happens?
Right.
So I'm glad that we have, like, a finality to Barbossa. Because
Definitely.
Really, his character needed it, especially over Jack or anybody else.
Yeah. So we talked about Barbossa just now. Another thing that I feel, and we'll kind of go off into whatever we want, but a thing that I feel, and Tyler felt too, that we missed a little bit in the review talking about is the comedy. This movie was talked about a lot going into it from the directors, from Jerry Bruckheimer, from Johnny Depp, from Jeffrey Rush, that it had found what made one so good, and they tried to really find the comedic elements that worked. And so this movie was supposed to be very action-packed, very story-driven, very, very funny. And what we didn't really talk about so much in the review is the comedy aspects of it. And the funny thing is that we both enjoyed it. I know we kind of bagged on Johnny Depp's drunk Jack Sparrow, which is more to the writing side than Johnny Depp. But he had some very good.
We do have to talk about that, though.
And we will talk about that more because there's more to say. But he had some very funny lines, and everybody had very funny lines in all. So what did you think about the comedy of this movie?
I actually really enjoyed the comedy. There were maybe some moments where I said, okay, can we end this? But I can't even honestly remember what ones they were. But there was a lot of really funny stuff to it, and it was a different level that Pirates of the Caribbean, humor-wise, they never really hit that type of level, comedy level. There was a lot of funny stuff before, but there was a lot of really funny stuff, like the horologist part. That scene was hilarious. When Scrum is when Gibbs makes him captain because he sees the Navy fleet. He's like, "Oh, I think you should be captain." He's like, "This is the proudest day of my," and then he immediately gets punched, that cut. That was hilarious. And then to see Gibbs I don't know. That was hilarious. One of your favorite lines is when
Yeah, do
Jack
either of the four
is
of you?
in the yeah, and he's like, have either of the four of you seen my bank or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's like I laughed at that one. That one was pretty funny. Not too many people actually laughed at my theater at that one because I think that somehow they didn't catch
It
that he
was a
said
fast line.
either of the
Either of
four of
you.
you.
Yeah, yeah, that was a
Yeah,
fast line.
yeah, yeah. He said either of the four of you seen my bank, and it's like there's only two. I mean, that was really funny.
Yeah.
Um, Now, what I didn't think was funny when he's standing on like trying to stand on the fence, and then he's about to get it, he's like bug up, and then he falls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I thought it was funny, but I didn't think it was like as funny as I think that they thought it was supposed to be.
Right.
But there was a lot of really funny scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I enjoyed almost all the funny aspects. I enjoyed.
right, and like we said in the review a little bit too, is I think what they benefited from is kind of spreading it around in this movie. What was missing in
Yeah.
4 was a good supporting cast in general, but if you even think about the supporting cast of 4, where's the comedy? Like Barbossa is pretty, he can be funny, I guess, but he's very much, direct and straight. Gibbs was with Barbossa the whole time, so he wasn't in a position to be funny. Blackbeard, Angelica wasn't funny. They tried to put it all on Jack and all on Scrum, and it just didn't work, right? Jack could be funny, but Scrum couldn't be because Scrum was basically the number
Right.
2. In this movie, you got Jack being Jack. You got Karina and
Well,
Henry.
it's a little different Jack, though.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a Jack 2.0, like really hyper drunk Jack. But you got Henry and Karina who kind of have like this nice, funny. They have a really nice chemistry, but they do have their funny moments too with each other. But they have like their cute moments, I think, which is really powerful in this film. Even when he's like holding on to her though, and they go back and forth with the whole. Like what the piece of her that he's holding on to, and they showed that in the trailers too. That's kind of funny, but they have Jack having a lot of funny moments, even though he's a little overhyped. Gibbs has a lot of moments to shine. Scrum isn't used, just like I said, he's used perfectly, I think, in this movie. This is exactly how you use a character like that. He's not even in it very much. He's in probably 6 scenes, but he's funny in each of those 6. The times they use him, he's good. You got the 2 naval officers back on Barbossa's fleet. They're hilarious. They always were, and I'm very glad they brought them back. You bring Pintel and Rigetti to this group, and it'll be fantastic, I think, because they obviously they had to carry a lot of the weight of the comedy aspects in the originals. So to have them mix in with literally 4 or 5 other funny people, they'll be perfect. It'll be a nice thing. So there was a lot of comedic elements, and I think what both Tyler and I liked about this movie is it knew when to do that for the most part. It also knew when to have like the emotional, more heavy scenes, which 4 definitely lacked, and even 1 and 2, or 3, depending on how you look at these movies, didn't have. So Tyler, we talked a little bit about Jack Sparrow in the review. We talked about him in the spoiler part. So after having a couple days to think about it and think about him, what do you want to say about good old Captain Jack?
Well, see, there's a lot of people, and this is actually bothering me a lot, actually. Not that I know Johnny Depp, and I don't have a personal relationship with Johnny Depp.
But you can reach us if you want.
A lot of people, huh?
But he can reach us if he wants.
If he wants to, that's fine. That's fine with me. But there's a lot of people who are blaming Johnny Depp for the way that Jack Sparrow acts in Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales. And again, I'm not attacking anybody. This is a discussion video. We told you to leave your thoughts because we were going to discuss them. And I already gave this person a heads up that I'll mention it. They write, In-Bet Gamer writes, okay, now for the negatives. They wrote a very good review. Go watch that, or go read it. They did a very good job. My biggest gripe in the film is Johnny Depp's performance. He clearly didn't bring his A game this time around, causing Jack Sparrow to come off like a parody of himself. I did appreciate, however, I did appreciate how he was utilized more sparingly, but whenever he was on screen, I just found myself waiting for him to snap out of the trance and give me the Jack Sparrow I loved in previous installments. Now, I agree with everything except for the Johnny Depp and the A-Game. This is what and there's way more. It's not just In-Bed Gamer. There's a lot of people saying, I hope Johnny Depp acts like how Jack Sparrow is supposed to act in the next movie. It's not Johnny Depp. There's stuff called a script and writers and directors. Mm-hmm. And I'm not attacking anybody, but you need to understand this because, and I agree 100%. Anytime Jack was on the screen, except for some, like the other funny one that I forgot to mention, the guillotine scene when it's good. Like about to chop his head off over and over. That part was hysterical too. He was perfectly fine in that scene. But in just about 99% of the movie, I love Jack Sparrow. I love the Pirates of the Caribbean. I said that in my review, or in our review. I hated Jack Sparrow in this movie because I was afraid. I was saying, I hope in the Importance of Jack Sparrow video, I think. I was saying, I hope that he is not the way that he seems in some of these trailers and TV spots throughout the entire movie. And Alex reassured me that he won't be. Alex, you were wrong. But it's not your fault, because how could we have guessed that they would do that to Jack Sparrow? Like, why? I don't know why they felt the need to do that. But the point is, that was how the character of Jack Sparrow was written for this film.
Right.
The reason they did it was because Jack Sparrow, not Johnny Depp, well, who was also down on his luck and drinking a lot. But anyways, Jack Sparrow was down on his luck for a while.
Yeah, 5 years.
And we already know that he's a drunk, but not like to that level. So he was drinking even more due to being like depressed.
Yeah.
So that's why he was extremely drunk. It wasn't Johnny Depp like forgetting how to play Jack Sparrow and not bringing his A game and all that. He did exactly what he was told to do.
Right.
He played the part that was his part for this film.
And we've talked about it before. We talked about it in the review and a couple other times in the fact that like he plays this drunk like loser for this whole movie, almost the entire film, right? And when you take that out and you just look at it, I think he does a good, like he plays a very different kind of Jack. In fact, he brings like a whole different, I was gonna say, like, he brings a new kind of life to Jack. Not saying it's a good kind of life, but it's definitely new.
Right.
But that's how they wrote, like the problem that Tyler and I both said with 5 is that he acts like this, and then when it's clear that the luck starts to turn back kind of good, he still acts like it. That's not Johnny Depp. That's the direction of the film, and them not telling him, hey, now it's time for you to change how you act as Jack. That's their problem. You know what I mean? So I definitely agree. I thought I definitely agree. Like Tyler said, I agree with the comment. I agree with everything Tyler said. I did tolerate him more the second time because I knew what I was in for. And he does have a couple, very few, but he does have a couple of those human, emotional scenes, which are cool, and we wish we had more. But it's not him. Johnny Depp, I think, did fine as Jack. It's just a different Jack, one that we don't like.
Right.
And hopefully it changes.
What I do want, well, he definitely won't be that, I think, in the next movie.
Yeah.
But what I do want to say, in a way, if the scenario that I'm about to say is true, it makes how we saw Jack Sparrow in this movie slightly better. If we were to pretend that somehow they rocked out 4 or 5 more movies. Like every other year, like every 2 years, one comes out. Not 4 years. So every other year, a Pirates of the Caribbean movie came out. It's probably impossible, but let's just pretend like, let's even say they go to Pirates 8, right? So Jack Sparrow's in 3 more films, and he acts normal in all of them. Then you can say, okay, well, at least we got to see a different side of this character that we didn't see before. So then it would almost be like remember that time when Jack was like extremely drunk?
Right.
And it would be like that. Now that I would be a lot more lenient on. The reason that I think I'm so not upset but disappointed in the way that Jack Sparrow was in this film was it just wasn't Jack Sparrow for me. But I almost feel like, and I don't know if it's because of how Alex and I have been working on our Pirates 6 thing, where it's the last Pirates of the Caribbean with Jack Sparrow, or if it's just talking about like future films. I feel like, though, that there's only so many more, probably one or two, and that's it, more movies with Jack Sparrow. So I feel like we're near the end, we're near the finish line, so I don't want to put anything in the way to kind of prevent that from happening, or I don't want to do anything to possibly ruin the character when we're so close to getting to the end.
Right.
That could be why I'm so disappointed in it. And again, I understand why they did it. Like if I was one of the writers, I would have did it too, but I would have stopped it a few nights in.
Right.
Like, before getting to before the whole marriage scene and all that, he would have no longer been that drunk.
Right.
Like it would have just been like the opening, and then it's like, okay, now he's kind of back. He's still weird like he was in the other movies, but he's basically back to Jack Sparrow. So I think, if the scenario I just said is the case, I have more leeway. Because then it would be one of those things like, remember the time, and that we've never really seen that in a movie before. We see that more in like TV shows,
right,
or even cartoons.
Yep.
But we've never seen that in a movie. So I think that would be interesting to be able to say that. Like, we'll never be able to say that like for Luke Skywalker, or I don't even know, like a Fast and Furious film.
Right.
Like none of them have ever been through that kind of thing. Well, actually, Dom, being the bad guy. So, we'll have Fast and Furious 10, and then when that's done, we could be like, remember that one time that Dom was bad?
Yeah.
Or he was the bad guy? And that's kind of cool to toss that, to be like, hey, remember that? Like, that's kind of a cool thought. Now, I hope that there's that many more films left, because I know I just said that there's probably going to be a 6, or most definitely a 6, but maybe a 7. And I know it's like, well, what's one more? Well, there is a big difference, because 2 more films and 3 more films, a lot can happen.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why. I just wanted to throw that in there, though.
Okay, so now we're going to go more into what you guys wrote to us, both in the ending. No. Now we're going to go to what you guys wrote to us in the review, where we kind of asked for your opinion of the movie as a whole. We're going to go to some of those comments, what stands out for me and Tyler, and we'll just talk about them for a little bit to end this thing.
Okay, so we're going to start with this one. Came out kind of recently. Rick van der Linden. I hope that's not your full name. But he writes, I saw the new movie yesterday and I hated it. The only good scenes are Barbossa and Will and Elizabeth. The whole story with the Trident was terrible. It looked too much sci-fi. The scene in the split sea was a cool idea, but they ruined it. Salazar was a great new villain, but most of the scenes with him were already shown in the trailer. True. Jack Sparrow was not good in this movie. Also true. It looked like he was drunk all the time, and it looked like he was forced to be funny in every scene. The action scene with the bank was a little over the top. Karina and Henry were not as good as Will and Elizabeth. I almost cried when Barbossa died. He was the best character in the whole series. So he writes more, but we could stop with that and we could talk about it. So Alex, so he hates it, and that's honestly unfortunate.
But it's cool.
Now,
we respect opinions.
Yeah. I mean, because he makes decent points. Like I can see like some people who maybe only just like the franchise, and then you go in and you think you're going to get normal Jack Sparrow, and then you get almost like a clown.
This movie
I can see how you would hate it.
This movie is very different, right? I mean, it's a reimagine. It really is. If you think about it, Jerry Bruckheimer warned us said it.
He did.
It's a reimagination of Pirates of the Caribbean. So. Yeah. They hope, obviously, going into this movie that it's going to be what Pirates fans love the most. And for the most part, I think it did it. I think it did it.
Yeah.
But also trying to push it forward, push it to this 2017, this new age.
Yeah,
The first one came. The first one came out a long time ago, so it's very different. Jeffrey Rush even talked about how the comedy of how they write the lines for comedy have changed since the first one, just because of what's gone on in the world since then. So
in the world, yeah.
So the only good scenes were with Barbossa and Will and Elizabeth. Those were the best scenes. I don't think those were the only good scenes. I think those were the best scenes by a mile.
Right. Yeah, I
Whole
agree.
Story
like,
with
the ending definitely was a very nice. Yeah. Not the after credit scene, which was also very good, but the actual ending with Will walking up, but like that whole thing, like when Elizabeth comes up and like the zooming in, like that was really well done.
Yeah.
Then the other thing was the whole story with the trident was terrible.
That's a good point.
It honestly, it is a good point because honestly, it is. If you really think about it, it is. And we obviously are going to be doing the curse, or what is a curse, what is a supernatural video, where we're going to go more in depth on what the trident has done, like did it really do. But yeah. Some of the stuff that has to do with the trident and the compass and all that stuff, it doesn't make sense. I think when he says it looks too much sci-fi, I think he means the trident looks. It doesn't look like a normal trident. It looks very like alienish, which I agree. I thought it was cool, but it makes me wonder what Poseidon would actually look like.
Right.
Then he also says, Salazar was a great villain, but most of the scenes were already shown in the trailer. That is a major problem that a lot of movies have been doing lately. Like Spider-Man Homecoming, like I basically know what happens when due to their last trailer.
Right.
I don't know why they do that, but they do. Jack Sparrow is not good. We just talked about that. Now, what do you think about how he thinks that they forced him to be funny in every scene?
Oh, yeah.
Part of me agrees.
That's a good point. I think every scene he was in, they tried to make him very apparent, very known that he's in the scene.
Yep.
Kind of push himself into it, and some scenes worked. Some scenes obviously didn't work. So I do agree. When he's in this movie, for the most part, it is for comedic effect. It's rarely the talk he has with Henry and Karina when he calls Karina's bluff, basically, or he throws Henry overboard.
Right.
That's a cool scene. I actually like that. He does actually seem more normal in that scene the second time around. And also what's kind of cool is when he says she's blushing, she actually is red in the face. So it is cool how they had her do that, or they paint, or they put makeup on. That's really cool how it was actually true that he called her. But that scene was good, and it kind of advanced the plot because he doesn't even know. This is the first time that he's not very sure. He knows that there's such a thing as a map that no man can read. He told Henry that, but then he says never heard of it. So he has no idea what about that. But yeah, what do you think? I do agree.
No, I agree with what you said, and I agree. I actually do agree. I just feel bad that he hated the movie. That sucks. Because I'm sure he was excited. Yeah. Or she, I don't know what it is. But, so that, that is, it's not upsetting. It's just, it is disappointing. Because you never want anybody to hate something, like a movie that you really enjoy.
Right.
But I can understand every single thing that I can see how people, not the freaking critics, because they're way out of line, but I can see how normal people might go in. They might be expecting something, and then they walk out, and they're like, man, that was not what I was expecting.
Yeah,
I can see that. I get that. Now, I don't think, and I'm not going to go too much into it, because I actually really enjoyed it, but part of me was like, yeah, okay, this is a little bit over the top, kind of like how he said, the bank scene, but I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed the whole thing.
I actually thought it was really, I actually liked it. Because what happened was the thief was going to break through the house, and Jack was going to run up to it and start sitting on it. I didn't think that the whole house was going to start. So they kind of take what you what your brain might be coming up with, and then they just say nope, and they do something even crazier.
Right.
I kind of like that.
Well, it And it fits with what Pirates normally does, right?
Oh, yeah, it definitely fit.
Right, like
it reminded me a lot of the wheel, the big wheel fight and all that stuff from Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah. Yeah, it had elements.
So that's what Lyndon said.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say because like you said, you expect it to go really nicely, and I think that's what Gibbs and Marty and all them was expecting, and then the whole house.
Yeah.
And Jack even says that was not part of the plan. Like obviously he didn't expect that to happen. We got Cedric Matthew Hudson. I personally think Salazar is a pretty weak villain. He doesn't have a great dialogue, to be honest. The only things he says throughout the whole movie is Jack Sparrow, Jack the Sparrow all the time. It kind of got on my nerves towards the end. Also, I didn't get how the compass broke him out of that place when Jack had given the compass away so many times at this point. It's weird because when I was younger, I didn't mind these little things, but now it just bugs me while watching this movie. Now, and that will go... We'll read the rest and we'll take it part by part. I was so sad to see Barbossa go and thought he was going to be in it a little more. I kind of thought the same thing. I completely agree on Jack. Either it was Johnny who basically forgot to play him after the Mad Hatter, or it was intentionally. What I love is the new score and theme for Barbossa and Karina. Beautiful music, and then he goes to rank it. Okay, Salazar, is he a weak villain? We kind of talked about this in the review, but let's go over... I don't think he's a weak villain. So I'll go and Tyler will go. I don't think he's a weak villain. I think here's the thing, and here's what I kind of realized too. Tyler and I both said, I stand by what Tyler and I both said. Stand by a lot of what we say. Salazar doesn't have good enough reason to be hunting all pirates. I stand by that. That is extremely weak. The father and grandfather thing is not good enough, in my opinion. Could be good enough for other people. Compared to Davy Jones and all of the reason he had, considering Davy Jones was a pawn and it was all Jack's fault, Davy Jones made a regular deal with the guy, and all was supposed to happen was Jack was supposed to serve 100 years. That was just a flat-out deal. Jack didn't want to do it. I covered that in the history. That's Jack's fault. That's not Davy Jones' fault. Davy Jones is not a bad person for what we see. He is a bad man, obviously. He's cruel. He doesn't do his job. Like, he's bad. Salazar... he's a bad man for killing all these pirates because his father and grandfather were killed. That's not a good enough reason. What I realized is his goal for going after Jack, that's good enough. That is okay. When he comes back and he's bent on revenge, and all he cares about is killing like one thing after the other, which I actually we talked about that. I really like that he's kind of very narrow-minded, which I kind of predicted. Remember, I predicted he would kind of be like that, like simple in a way. He is kind of smart, but he is very much like, I'm going to just kill, and I'm going to just go straight ahead because I can. Obviously, Jack tricked him, and he even kind of realized that when he said, in my victory, he fooled me. Yeah. So, like, he even knows that, like, he messed up. He got too arrogant. He got too high.
He was bested by a kid, yeah.
Right. So, to have that happen, and Jack killed his entire crew and him, it makes sense why Salazar would hunt Jack to the death and be really mean and just straightforward in trying to do it. That part is strong. His goal to kill all pirates, which honestly, you could basically remove that part and be okay if you wanted to, you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird thing. Like, if that part wasn't there, he would be, I think, maybe even a stronger villain. You'd have to rework his backstory a little. So I think half of him is good, half of him is bad. He doesn't have great dialogue. I kind of like this dialogue because it was kind of straightforward and, like, right to the point, where he said, like, I'm going to tap my sword and one of your men is going to die. And then he taps it once, and then he taps it 2 more times, and he says, better hurry, Captain. It's like, he doesn't care about Barbossa. He was going to crush that ship. The only reason he didn't is because Barbossa said, I hear you're looking for Jack Sparrow. So, I think overall he's a really good villain. I just don't think he's up to Davy Jones. I would have liked to see Salazar, as we said, in a 6. I think having 2 movies with Davy Jones really helped him. If it was just 2, I don't think Davy Jones obviously would have been such a good character. So what do you think about Salazar?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Yep. You covered a lot because, I don't know, I still feel like I see how he can be seen as a strong villain, not a strong villain. I can see how he'd be considered a weak villain. I also think, I personally think he's a weak villain, but also, like you said, like a good villain.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure on him because I don't understand his. I get the motive for Jack, but I almost still feel like that's not even good enough. Like you were tricked. Okay, so that's your fault, not Jack's.
True.
So, but like killing all pirates and being as brutal as he is, and all, like he's worse than a pirate.
Yeah. Oh,
So
definitely.
like, what? I don't even get it. Like my father and grandfather were killed. So was every person who had a grandfather in like World War One or two. Like, how many people died in wars? So it's like you don't see their like grandkid being like, well, the Germans killed my father and my grandfather, so I'm going to eradicate every German. I mean,
Right.
I guess there was one person who was like that, but
Yeah.
not really. But
Right.
still, so it's like it's just kind of strange.
Right.
So I can see how he's a weak villain.
So,
I wish that he would have had better motives.
yeah.
But for the now for the compass, because I was saying it to you too, and you had a good reason. Because I said Jack literally gives the compass away in every single movie. So
Right.
why is this different?
Yeah. Okay.
And tell them what you said.
So let's talk. So Jack had given away the compass away so many times at this point. So let's go through each movie. In one, he had the compass, right? Jack possessed the compass. He never had it away from him for more than an extent. Like he always had it on him. In two, he had it and he gave it to Elizabeth to help himself, is what I think is the important part. Salazar said he gave away the compass, but then Shansha said if you betray the compass, it unleashes your greatest fear. That's what the witch said. So Jack betrayed the compass in 5 because he gave it away for a meaningless drink, which is in itself kind of cool. But then it is a weird situation. I do get how people think it's weird. He gave it away for a stupid point that was it was selfish, but not in the same way as the other movies. In 2, he gave it to Elizabeth, but he was with her the whole time, as Tyler said to me before. He's with her the whole time, and she's trying to find Davy Jones's chest and the heart. So that's helping Jack himself. So that's not betraying it. It didn't work for him because he didn't really know what he wanted and how to get there, but Elizabeth
Right.
did.
Yeah.
So he didn't betray it. In 3, he had the compass the entire time until he gave it to Will, who again, like Tyler has said before, 3 is just a complete the 3 is a movie just showing how smart Jack is. He planned the entire thing. He knew where he was going to go. He knew that Will would use the compass. He even said, think like me, it'll come to you. He wanted Will to use the compass to lead Beckett and Davy Jones to the Brethren Court. That's not betraying it. He wanted to get them there, so he was just using it for his own motives. In 4, he had the compass. Blackbeard 4. Oh, okay, and also in 3, because there is confusion, Beckett did have the compass in 3, but that was because it was removed from Jack when Sao Fang captured him right before. So he never gave it to Beckett. It was taken from Jack. In 4, he had the compass the whole time until Blackbeard forcibly removed it from him when Jack had to go to Ponce de Leon's ship to get the 2 chalices. Blackbeard went to the Fountain of Youth. So in that one, he didn't betray the compass, although, like Tyler said, and it's a good point, you could argue he did betray the compass because he could have put up a fight. He didn't have to have it forcibly removed from him. He could have fought for that compass, and he didn't. So you could argue that could have been a scene where it would have done the same thing, but let's ignore that. Technically, he had it removed from him forcibly, not his fault. This is the one where he willingly gave it up for a pointless thing. So it takes like 2 minutes to explain it, which is too long, and I definitely agree. The compass is a problem in this movie, and Tyler and I will talk about it more in the supernatural and curse because it's all over the place. So the final thing we're going to talk about here, and we did it a little bit in the review, but we want to go back into it just for the final thing for this video. We want to talk about the 2 new people of this film, the 2 youngsters, Henry and Karina. Now, I think they're phenomenal, but the question is, and we've seen it a lot, and obviously you know that this is people are gonna ask these questions when this movie came out anyway. We kind of knew that, like, are they as good, or will they be as good as Will and Elizabeth? And I don't think it's fair, and people are doing this. I don't think it's fair to compare them to the whole Will and Elizabeth. That's not fair. What about Will and Elizabeth in 1? This is a reboot. They've said it before.
Right.
It's a reboot. It's a reimagination. I think Tyler and I both agree they set this up, and I said this to my sister, I think they set this movie up as like a new one way better than 1. So in my opinion, Henry and Karina are way better characters than Will and Elizabeth in 1. It's not fair to say, like, because Elizabeth's story, like I've said, it does grow on me. I think her character arc is very, very good, especially in 3. She's a phenomenal character. She's the main character of 3. I think Karina is the main character of this one. I don't think you could argue that. Really, she is. So, what do you think? What do you think of those two characters, and how would you compare them to Will and Elizabeth?
Well, like for Henry and Will's comparison, at least, obviously Will was very skilled in sword fighting due to what he was doing, a blacksmith and all that. But you can say, like, seeing how Henry, he does a really good job in fighting, because he fights quite a few times. He does well. That he probably practiced and probably was trained by Elizabeth, who was also rather skilled.
Yeah.
And so, I guess what I'm trying to say is, so on that level, they're very comparable. Now, in my opinion, where Henry excels Will is his knowledge. Henry, even though he doesn't really show it that much, he does, but not that much. In 5, but he states that he knows every myth and every legend. That's a very big deal. Very big deal. Because Will didn't obviously know all that. But why it's a big deal is because he is the character that will be the person to continue the franchise of Pirates of the Caribbean. Whether it be a spin-off, Pirates of the Caribbean, whatever, he will be the vehicle in which they use to continue the franchise. I said it for my Pirates 7 through 9 video. A lot of people disagree. A lot of people say that there's no Pirates of the Caribbean without Jack Sparrow and even Barbossa. I'm just here to tell you, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. And I hate to say that you're wrong, but you just are. Because that's why that they have this character because he could have just said that I know everything about the Trident, or I know everything about curses. It's not what he said. I know everything about I know about all myths and all legends. So what does that say? That he could, they could go and do this myth, and he'll have a basic understanding on it.
Right.
He's almost like a Nathan Drake. Like he knows a lot of different aspects of a bunch of different things on a bunch of different paths that they could go down story-wise.
Definitely.
Like what they topic, main plot, like whatever relic or whatever. Like he is gonna understand it. So that's really exciting because we haven't had that character except for Barbossa. Right. And he didn't really know everything. Like Henry knew the most in this entire movie out of everybody.
Yep.
So that's really cool. And and Karina obviously has a lot of knowledge too. But combining her knowledge and his skills in fighting and all of that, and even the skills like Karina's a very strong person too.
Yeah.
So just those two together, they're a much stronger team. They're almost like a powerhouse team, rather than when you have Will and Elizabeth together. Because really, when you think about Will and Elizabeth, they really, except for the ending of At World's End, never really were together in a fighting together, or they really didn't work together that much. That's not the character's fault. I know that's how the movies went, but they were almost at odds for a lot of 3, and even 2, they weren't really together that much in 2.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's why, but I just feel that Henry, what he can bring to the table and what Karina brings to the table is especially what Karina brings to the table is way more than what Elizabeth brings. Because Elizabeth literally didn't bring anything to the table other than her connections to the Royal Navy.
Right.
That's it. She didn't bring anything. At least Karina's well, I'm a horologist. I also study time. I'm just kidding. Horologist is time thing. But
And I mean, she's a very strong character. Like when she says when she says the final words of Karina Smith, and they're all talking, and then she yells at them, and they all shut up. It's like, that's very cool.
And that's the opposite. That's like the opposite of Elizabeth. Like, remember in Pirates 1, when Elizabeth, she hides in the closet, and then, like, they come together, and, like, how scared she is? Karina's about to be hanged, or hung, or whatever it is, I don't even know. She's about to be hanged, like, legitimately. Like, she didn't know that she was going to be saved. She was about to be hanged, and she yells at everybody, and she wants to make sure that they hear her last words.
Right.
Elizabeth would never do that. Maybe how Elizabeth was by the end of the third movie, maybe. But this is the first time we've seen her, and Elizabeth in Pirates 1 would never, if she was in that situation, it would have never happened with her.
Definitely. Yeah, they just wait now. And so the final thing, and it does have to do with these two characters, because I just remembered, there was a lot of talk about this with actually many critics, and we can talk for hours about the critics of this thing, but critics-wise, they felt that those two were forced. The relationship was forced. Now, I don't agree with that at all. I think the relationship, like, going through the movie, obviously they're put in scenes together on purpose, but that's not forcing it. That's just the nature of the movies, and obviously you have to give scenes to them to develop. And they have those scenes. The first time they meet is when she's dabbing him with water of him, and she doesn't even like him because she thinks he's crazy.
Yeah.
Then you have them talking when they're tied up by Jack, and then you have them talking several times about like how she's kind of wrong, and it's like a cute thing.
Wrong,
So like throughout the whole movie, it's not like randomly they're like, we love each other. It's not like that. They're building this. And Henry even says we're very much alike. We're both searching for our fathers.
Like it was. I didn't feel it was forced at all. No. Because honestly, I never felt any chemistry between Will and Elizabeth. I only did in some moments, like towards the end of 1. I did a little bit, but I never. It just felt like you can kind of see that Will cares for her, but I never got the sense, and I don't even. In my opinion, I don't think Keira Knightley is that great of an actress. I'm not calling her out or anything. If she's watching this, I'm sorry. I just don't think she's that good. Where for Karina and Henry, their characters, I did actually feel, and it's not because I wanted to. Like, I went into this, and I just was excited for Pirates of the Caribbean. I said I hated how Jack was. I have a lot of problems with this movie. So I didn't go into this, or I'm not saying this now, like, well, you want them to have chemistry. No, I don't. I honestly, if they didn't, I would say it. But I think that they actually did have a lot of chemistry.
Yeah.
I believed that by the end, it makes sense that they would kiss or they'd be together.
Yeah.
Because they're two strong characters, and it makes sense that because she's a strong woman. Obviously, she studies stuff that women aren't supposed to study. So already she's kind of an outcast, and they think she's a witch and blah blah blah. So she's an outcast person, but she knows that that's not what it is. She thinks that women can do that kind of stuff. Like, why can't women do that?
Right.
So she's a strong female character. I don't think it's like a feminist type thing. I think she's just a strong female character. Right. And I think it makes sense that she'd be looking for somebody in a man who is a strong, forward moving, not like down and like gives up. She'd be looking for a strong man, and Henry knows what he's talking about. He's saying, like, I know this. You need to listen to me. Like, he was telling everybody that.
Right.
Like, Jack, just listen to me. Barbossa, Salazar, like, he literally. I think he said it to Salazar. No, he said it to his captain. Yep. Like, he kept saying, like, you need to listen to me. But no matter what, he never stopped. He kept doing it. So, and you felt that, like, he was a very strong character. He fought, and so you can tell that she saw that, and that's why she starts to have feelings for him, because of that. And again, it totally makes sense that she would want somebody strong. She's not going to want somebody weak where she's going to, like, dominate them. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not how girls are, like, in reality. Like, even a strong girl, they don't want to, they want somebody to make them feel like the girl. They don't want to feel like the man.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it just makes sense in a real world aspect as to how it all worked.
Definitely.
No, if Henry was if Will, who was more quiet, yes, Mrs. Swan. Even though I know that he called her Miss Smith, I think he did, right?
Yeah.
Or did he call her Miss Barbossa?
No, he said
I think
Miss,
he called her Miss Smith.
Miss Smith, and then that's when she said
But I felt that was just a callback to Will, but he was way more straightforward and stuff. But if he was more like how Will was with Elizabeth, very quiet and very proper and all of that, I don't think she would have liked that. Yeah. I'm not saying that she's into the bad boy stuff. She's just into the kind of person who knows this is what I'm telling you this. I know what I'm talking about, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And that's the kind of person that she was looking for.
Right.
So it all makes sense. So how they can say there's no chemistry doesn't make sense at all, because then that means that they don't understand real life human chemistry, and they are critics. So they probably are losers in real life. So they probably don't understand it.
Yeah, most likely. So yeah, I mean, I agree that it's not forced. I thought the relationship was great. So that is the end of our Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales discussion. We hope we covered, I think we covered through different parts of the comments and through just what we were saying. We basically covered the entire film, anything you could think about. As always, if there's something we missed or something you want to talk about specifically, write in the comments of this video. We will definitely, as we always do, we'll respond. We'll keep talking about this. We're not going away. As we said in the beginning of the video, make sure we answer Tyler's 3 questions and as to what is supernatural, what is a curse. In around 2 days, we're going to have a video talking about that specifically, and then we'll do another video talking about Davy Jones specifically. So we're going to have a couple more. We'll keep up on Pirates 6, any rumors, any confirmations, anything we hear as the weeks go on. We are not done. We still have a lot more to go. We're not going to say goodbyes, at least just yet, and hopefully not for a very long time if they confirm Pirates 6. Tyler, thank you for joining me in this discussion.
Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome. And we will see you guys on Wednesday's video.